Pokemon Go has been out for a little over 4 years now. However, not all Pokemon have made it into the game from the current generations available. If you look in the Pokedex, you'll notice some missing entries and forms of already existing Pokemon. Whether this is a regional you're missing because you don't have access to it, or simply put, the Pokemon just isn't available in the game right now. Some of these Pokemon have special abilities that might require lots of programming or working around to implement them into the game, while others will be brought into the game through newer waves or events with no problem at all. In this video, we will cover all the unreleased Pokemon from each of the 5 generations currently available in Pokemon Go and my predictions on how they might be released. Ever wondered why certain Pokemon or forms aren't already in the game? Stay tuned and you will find out. What's up everybody, my name is BVMSerious and let's get right into the video. So starting off our list, we have a Pokemon from the 3rd generation that has yet to be released into the game. It's been almost 3 years now since Gen 3 has been out in Pokemon Go, and I'm surprised that we still don't already have this Pokemon. And the Pokemon I'm talking about is none other than Kecleon. So Kecleon is a pretty unique Pokemon because of its special ability, and the ability I'm talking about is Color Change. What Color Change does for Kecleon is that when it gets hit by a certain move, Kecleon turns into the type that move represents. So predominantly, Kecleon is actually a normal type Pokemon, but with Color Change, when he gets hit by a move, he turns into the type of the move that he gets hit by. So for example, let's say he gets hit by the move Crunch, which is a Dark type move. He would turn from a normal type into a Dark type Pokemon. Now let's say he gets hit by the move Hydro Pump, which is a Water type move. He would then turn from a Dark type into a Water type. And from there you pretty much get the picture. He'll keep changing types until he faints in battle. So I understand why Niantic still hasn't released this Pokemon. I feel like a Pokemon like Kecleon would be really complex, and also with its ability and them trying to make it fit into the game, it seems like it would be really hard to install into Pokemon Go. And I don't know a whole lot about programming, so I wouldn't exactly know what Niantic is dealing with. With a Pokemon like Kecleon, I'd have to imagine there would be a lot of programming being required to insert this Pokemon into Pokemon Go. But my guess on how they might release Kecleon into the game is, I guess that what they could do is they could introduce Kecleon in all 18 different types that are currently available, but then that would just be a lot of space being taken up in the Pokemon box, and I don't think anyone would want that. Or alternatively, they could even just insert Kecleon into the game as strictly a normal type Pokemon, but then it wouldn't follow along with its color change ability, and that would result in a lot of fans just being really disappointed. But I do hope at some point that we do see Kecleon, because, I mean, he's not the best Pokemon in the game, but he's still a Pokemon nonetheless. And if you're like me, you're probably just trying to collect every single Pokemon just to have it in your Pokedex, just to say that you actually have it. So the next Pokemon on our list is a Pokemon from Gen 4 that actually is already in Pokemon Go, however its other forms are not. And the Pokemon I'm talking about is none other than Rotom. So Rotom was actually released as part of the Pokemon Go Fest 2020 festivities, starting off with the Washer Rotom that you could actually get through the Go Snapshot. However, you could only get up to 5 of these Rotom during both days, up to a total of 10. But if you actually look in the Pokedex, you will notice an entirely different form of Rotom that is available. However, this form is unobtainable at the very moment. This is actually the Light Bulb Rotom, which is the normal form that is able to possess the other appliances. That's the other thing about Rotom, is that he is able to possess other appliances and become an entirely different type. So the other forms I am talking about, along with the Light Bulb Rotom that aren't currently available in Pokemon Go, are the Lawnmower Rotom, the Fan Rotom, the Heat Rotom, and the Frost Rotom. Now the only problem here is the Lawnmower Rotom, because the Lawnmower Rotom has a unique move that doesn't already exist in the game, and this move is called Leaf Storm. Leaf Storm, I'm very surprised, is not already in the game, but what it does in the main series games is that it has a base power of 130. When it hits your opponent, it actually lowers your special attack by 2 stages, but does a lot of damage to your opponent. But I feel like this is a move that there should be no problems with being implemented into the game. And once Niantic does implement Leaf Storm into the game, there really should be no problems at all implementing the other forms of Rotom in, and it should just be pretty straightforward from there. But as with how they might be implementing these forms of Rotom, they could just do it through the Go Snapshot like they did the Washer Rotom, or maybe Niantic has something else in store for Rotom. I guess we will find out soon enough. Next on the list is a Pokemon that is a mythical, and I'm surprised that this did not get released with this year's Go Fest and actually got skipped over by Victini. And this mythical Pokemon is Manaphy and its mini version, Phione. So Manaphy and Phione are both pretty unique in that they're the only legendaries slash mythicals in all of Pokemon that actually hatch from an egg. So traditionally this is how you actually obtain Manaphy. You just basically got an egg and you hatched it. However, this egg looked entirely different from like the 2 kilometer, 5 kilometer, and 10 kilometer eggs that you got from Pokemon Go. As for how Niantic might implement this mythical into the game, I'm sure they're probably just reserving it for like a special research story like they've done with like all the other mythicals. But then the only problem is Manaphy is able to hatch from an egg, and this is where the complications come in. So a reward encounter, the Pokemon actually starts out at level 15, but when you hatch a Pokemon from an egg, it can hatch up to a maximum of level 20. So I think it would be really cool if like we got like a special research and then just got like a Manaphy egg. And my assumption for like the distance, I feel like it would be worthy to actually just have to walk like 20 kilometers with it, since that is the kilometer requirement for earning a candy with a legendary or a mythical that you have as a buddy. It would just seem fitting in my opinion. Or perhaps maybe they might even just release Manaphy as a reward encounter instead of through an egg. And to me that would just seem like an untraditional way of obtaining Manaphy and therefore cause a little bit of disappointment. But it's really what Niantic just wants to do. I feel like it would be really cool to see this Pokemon get implemented into Pokemon Go nonetheless. And we're going to dive into Phione just a little bit. Obviously not as good as Manaphy, so to obtain Phione in the main series games, you take a Manaphy and breed it with a Ditto, and then that's how you got Phione. My guess is they could probably just put it in an egg and then walk around with it and try to hatch it as like a special research award, or maybe they might just like put it in like a 10 kilometer egg or something and then make it like very rare to get, like Axew. Or like my other idea is they could probably just make it like an untraditional way of obtaining it and then just get like a reward encounter through the special research, and again that would also cause fan disappointment. But again, I just really want to see these two Pokemon. I mean, I know they're not the best mythicals in the game, but they're still pretty cool in my opinion, and I want to see them be put in the game just to simply say that I have them. Moving on to the next Pokemon is another mythical from Gen 4, and this is Shaymin. So Shaymin actually has two forms, the land form as well as the sky form. So Shaymin pretty much has the same stats as all of the other mythicals do. However, the sky form Shaymin actually has a slightly higher attack stat but a much lower defense stat. I actually looked through like the Pokegenie and seen like what kind of moves this thing has access to. According to it, it has access to the move Hidden Power, which has the potential of being a grass move, and it also has Grass Knot. Of course, this is just coming from the Pokegenie, and I'm not 100% sure if this is actually going to be the moveset that Shaymin will have when it gets introduced into Pokemon Go, or if it will. So don't quote me on any of this because I have no idea. But if Shaymin does have access to some really good grass moves like Grass Knot and probably Razor Leaf, it could have the potential to outclass Roserade as a new good grass attacker in Pokemon Go. As for how Niantic might release this Pokemon, I guess they could probably do it through special research, or maybe they might be reserving it for raids, or probably even like EX raids. However, due to the whole coronavirus pandemic that has been happening, back in March, Niantic actually halted EX raids, and we have not been getting EX raids since then. So I'm sure they'll probably be holding that off for a while now. Again, another Pokemon I really love to see because Shaymin is just awesome. Next Pokemon on the list is Arceus. Now, Arceus is the last Gen 4 mythical and the only other Gen 4 Pokemon that has yet to be released. This is actually classified as the God of all Pokemon, or as I like to call it, the Llama God. But in my opinion, he's very similar to Kecleon, except his ability is actually called Multi-Type, and what this does is it changes Arceus' typing based on the plate that he is holding. And if you give him to Arceus, he will turn into the type that that plate represents. So let's say you give him a Pixie plate, he would turn into a Fairy type, or the Draco plate would turn him into a Dragon type, the Meadow plate would turn him into a Grass type, and then from there you pretty much get the picture from there. He'll turn into different types based on the plate you give him. Again, because of this functionality with the plates and Arceus being able to be many different types, this might require a lot of programming on Niantic's end to implement such a Pokemon into the game. Maybe Niantic has a plan up their sleeve, I guess we'll have to find out. As for how they might release him, they could like bring him in through like raids, or for something more suitable like an EX raid. But I guess we'll have to see what Niantic does with this Pokemon. I'm very curious to see. Again, I really want Arceus. He's just awesome. So the next Pokemon on the list that we're going to be talking about are all the Gen 5 Pokemon that have yet to be released into the game. On screen right now are all the Pokemon shown, and I'm not going to be talking about all of them, but I at least want to talk about a couple. One of them I want to talk about is a Pokemon that actually is in the game, but its other form is not. And this is Darmanitan. And you might be asking, why Darmanitan? He's already in the game, right? Well, that is true, yes. Darmanitan is in the game, however, its Zen mode is not. Yes, you heard right, Darmanitan has a Zen mode. And this is completely different from its regular form. So Darmanitan is a really good Fire-type Pokemon, however, he is very glassy with having a low defense, and he does have a lot of HP to compensate, but even then, that just isn't enough. At least in my opinion. I personally have never used Darmanitan in raids or anything, but I've actually seen the stats on the Zen mode, and his offense actually goes down just slightly, but his defense goes up tremendously, so this will make him much bulkier and much more battle viable in my opinion. And not only that, but he also becomes part Psychic with being Zen mode. However, even at this, he will not be outclassing Reshiram because Reshiram has a much higher attack stat than Darmanitan does. So he'll always be the best fire attacker, at least until something else outclasses him. And he's definitely not going to be outclassing Mewtwo anytime soon. Not only this, but the Galarian version of Darmanitan also has a Zen mode of its own. And what this Zen mode does is completely different. So the Darmanitan Galarian variant actually has the same stats as its normal variant does, but the Zen mode Galarian Darmanitan has a much higher attack stat and a slightly higher defense stat. So still pretty glassy, but its ice moves are going to hit like a truck. So if the Galarian Darmanitan hasn't already outclassed Mamoswine yet as a good ice type attacker, then it will with this form. It literally will outclass Mamoswine with this Zen mode form. It'll just be hitting dragons like really hard with that high attack stat, and also with its access to Ice Fang and Avalanche is just crazy. So I would love to see the Zen mode Darmanitan be introduced into Pokemon Go. The next unreleased Gen 5 Pokemon I want to discuss is Deerling and its evolved form Sawsbuck. These Pokemon actually have different forms based on the type of season that it is, spring, summer, fall, and winter. Now my guess as to how they might introduce this into the game, they could just introduce each new form on every equinox and solstice that we have and then just swap forms from there. So with all these Gen 5 Pokemon, I bet most likely they will be released with like new events coming up in the future, or there might even be like a third wave for them because there's enough Gen 5 Pokemon that there will most likely probably be a third wave. Or if there isn't going to be another wave, I'm most certain that these will be coming out with later events, which I hope they do. I love the rest of these Gen 5 Pokemon that haven't been released yet. They're all just so cool and I cannot wait for them to show up in Pokemon Go. Next up on the list are the Therian forms of Tornadus, Thundurus, and Landorus. So now what these forms do is not only do they alter their appearance, but they also alter their stats in a sense. For the Therian Tornadus, only his defense goes up slightly, but his offense actually goes down. So there really is no hope for the Therian Tornadus. and he just doesn't have any viable flying moves to make him meta relevant as a flying attacker, so we're just going to be leaving him out of this. Now as for Thundurus though, his offense goes up really high, and his defense actually goes slightly down, but not by a whole lot. Even then, Thundurus will be a really good electric attacker. Now if only he had access to the move Wild Charge, he could actually have the potential to outclass Zekrom as a new best electric attacker. However, he only has access to Thunder Punch and Thunder. But even then, it's not terrible. I mean, it'll be a good electric attacker if you don't have access to anything else. I mean, with a really high attack stack, I mean, electric attacks will still be hitting hard. As for the Therian Landorus, his offense goes up by quite a bit, but his defense goes down just slightly. And with this, and with his access to Mud Shot and Earth Power for ground moves, he will outclass Excadrill and Groudon and even Garchomp. But yeah, the Therian, Thundurus, and Landorus have a lot of potential, and I bet these three forms will most likely be introduced in raids. Even if the Tornadus isn't as good as the other ones, I'd still like to see it. Next on the list is Black and White Kyurem. Yes, Kyurem actually has a whole nother different form. It's basically Kyurem actually has like a fusion with either Reshiram to make White Kyurem or Zekrom to make Black Kyurem. Now, I also looked through the Pokegenie on this one too, and the only one that seems more promising out of these two is the Black Kyurem, only because of its access to Dragon Tail and Outrage. And if this does end up being the case, if he actually does have Dragon Tail and Outrage, he will outclass Rayquaza as the next best Dragon attacker. So cherish those Rayquazas while you still can, because when Black Kyurem does arrive, he will be the next best Dragon attacker over Rayquaza. And not only that, but Kyurem, out of all the Pokemon, actually has the highest CP of all of them, even more than Slaking, Regigigas, and even Mewtwo. And as for how they might release this Pokemon, they could just like release him in raids. But yeah, I am so excited for both of these forms to come out. It'll just be game changing. Next up, we have a mythical from Gen 5, and this Pokemon is none other than Keldeo. So Keldeo actually has relations to the Sword Trio. Now I'm really surprised that out of all the Gen 5 mythicals that Genesect actually came out first before Keldeo, because, you know, Keldeo is like the first mythical before that, and we also got the Sword Trio much sooner than the other legendaries in Pokemon Go. And the other thing is that Keldeo actually has two different forms, these being the normal form and the Resolute form. This really doesn't do anything as far as stats, but the only difference is its appearance. So that's really the only thing that the Resolute does for Keldeo, is just changes its appearance. Now, this Pokemon might be very likely being saved for a special day like for Regigigas with the Colossal Discovery Special Research, or maybe like Genesect for the Drive to Investigate Special Research, or maybe they might be reserving Keldeo for EX raids, but I guess we shall see what Niantic does for this Pokemon. Again, another really cool Pokemon I really want to see. Next on the list is another Gen 5 mythical called Meloetta. Meloetta has two forms called the Aria form and the Pirouette form. So the Aria form is actually normal and psychic, while its Pirouette form is normal and fighting. Now I have a pretty good feeling that these two different forms of Meloetta will be introduced in raids separately. Maybe again, because this is a mythical after all, they might be saving this for EX raids, or maybe for something special like Keldeo. But again, we will have to see what Niantic does for this Pokemon. And I do feel like with the stats that Meloetta has, this does have potential of being a very good Pokemon. Next up, this Pokemon obviously has been in the game for a while now, but its other forms are not, and that's Genesect. Yes, Genesect actually has other forms. Well, they're not exactly like forms, but they're just like, if you look on Genesect's back, you'll see like what appears to be like a drive, and Genesect has 4 different drives to choose from. These are the Burn Drive, the Shock Drive, the Douse Drive, and the Chill Drive. And all of these change Genesect's one move, Technoblast, into the type that these drives represent. However, Technoblast doesn't already exist in the game, and therefore really shouldn't be a concern at the moment for Genesect. But I do think it would be really cool to see this actually be implemented into the game. And for some weird reason, when I actually looked in Pokegenie, I saw that the Shock Drive Genesect has different stats than the other Genesect variants do. And I really don't have any explanation for this, so I'm just not even going to talk about it. And last but not least is a Pokemon from Gen 8. I was surprised that this Pokemon did not already get released like Obstagoon and Berserker did, but this Pokemon happens to be none other than Sirfetch'd. Back in June, we actually got the Galarian Farfetch'd as part of celebrating the release of the Isle of Armor for Pokemon Sword and Shield. And however, I found out that when I caught a Galarian Farfetch'd, it apparently does not evolve into Sirfetch'd, which to me is pretty shocking. I was not expecting this because if you remember back in June, we also had the Throwback Champion research, which introduced the Galarian variants of Zigzagoon and Meowth, which were able to evolve into their bigger Galarian forms Obstagoon and Berserker, which weren't already available. And I think that that was really cool that we actually got 2 Gen 8 Pokemon this early on. Now, as for Sirfetch'd, he is another one of those Gen 8 Pokemon, and maybe Niantic is probably just saving Sirfetch'd for when Gen 8 actually does come out into Pokemon Go. Again, this might be at like a couple years from now, because we still don't even have Gen 6 yet. Now, as for evolving Sirfetch'd in the main series games, you had to take a Galarian Farfetch'd, and I did not know this when I played Pokemon Sword, because that's the version he's exclusive to. You basically have to land 3 critical hits on your opponent in any battle, and then he would evolve into Sirfetch'd. However, critical hits do not exist in Pokemon Go at all. This might just end up being like a candy evolution. Obviously, there's a reason for everything, and whatever that reason may be, only Niantic knows what it is. So there you have it. That's a lot of Pokemon that have yet to be released in Pokemon Go. Funny enough, these are the Pokemon I happen to be most excited for, mostly because it feels like Niantic is actually saving a lot of these bigger, badder, and more unique Pokemon for last. And it could even just be, like I said earlier in the video, maybe some of these are just having complications being implemented, like Kecleon and Arceus, for example. And obviously Gen 6 Pokemon are on the horizon for Pokemon Go, and I really felt like there was really no need to talk about these because of that reason. If you actually refer back to the Pokemon Go 4th year anniversary photo, if you look very closely, you'll actually notice the Gen 6 starters. You just have to look very closely, but you can actually see Chespin, Fennekin, and Froakie, as well as some of the Mega Evolutions. So that is the obvious sign that Gen 6 will be coming to Pokemon Go very soon. My guess is probably sometime within the next month or so. I'm very excited for Gen 6. It may not be the biggest of all the generations, but it's still a really cool one nonetheless. I am definitely most excited for Mega Evolution because of the monstrous appearances of most of the Pokemon with Mega Evolutions, and they also have some really nice increase to stats, which I'm very excited for. For obvious reasons, Gen 7 and 8 probably won't be coming out for another while yet, probably within like a year or two. It's really interesting to see how many Pokemon still have yet to be released in Pokemon Go, but obviously they'll all come out eventually. Obviously, if you are watching this video at a much later date to when these Pokemon do come out, just please disregard everything I have already mentioned in this video. Obviously, at that point, it won't mean anything, and I will be sure to mark it as outdated at that point when this does happen. Also, if you feel like I've missed anything or might have, given out some inaccurate information or anything along those lines, please let me know down in the comments section down below. I'd like to hear from you about this matter. But anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I definitely put a lot of time and effort and some research into making it. But anyways, if you did enjoy the video, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below. Let's see if we can get 100 subscribers by the end of this year. I know you guys can do it. And also, leaving a like and a comment won't hurt either. But anyways, that is it for me today. I'm BVMSerious, and I hope you guys have a seriously amazing day. Thank you so much for watching.